after many days, I have finally gotten my package. I had to go to the post office and sign for it because I wasn't here. Now that I have everything basically out of the way, all the private information, we're just gonna unbox this together and take everything out. Get up real nice because I had concerns about shipping, so it's a pretty expensive item. Let's get it centered. Good enough. Ooh. I did not think anybody would ever saran wrap this. So the 24 to 105 kit lens. I've never put on a camera lens before. But yeah. It looks nice. So do some test videos with this. See how it goes. So right now I'm about to head to the gym. So this is the Canon EOS RP that you're seeing. I'm gonna bring both cameras with me and just get some comparison shots. So right now I would say we're in a kind of dimly lit room, and then in the gym there's overhead lighting. So we'll get some good comparison shots there, and then we can finish it up here. So already getting into the first clip, the most obvious difference between these two cameras is that the RP is definitely darker, and in my opinion definitely retains a lot more image quality, and overall just looks a lot better, not as much noise. And then looking at this second clip, the darkness really is a big difference, and you can see the detail in the image with the RP as opposed to the G6, which is to be expected when comparing a crop sensor camera from almost 5 years ago to a full frame camera that was released, I believe, almost 2 years ago now. So it's definitely an improvement, as you can tell, for me. So back from the gym now, and I'm actually getting gas, as you can tell. So looking at those comparison shots, you can see there's quite a difference. I had the settings the same, 1/60th of shutter speed. Both apertures were at 4.0. Couldn't really get the focal length the same. This is a 24 to 105 lens, and then the lens on the Panasonic G6 was a 14mm. If you do the crop factor, it's a crop factor of 2, I believe, on that camera. So you're looking at 28. I don't know why that took me so long. So you're looking at a 28mm full frame equivalent as opposed to this 24mm. Auto white balance, aperture was at 4.0, and ISO was both on 400. You can see with the Panasonic G6, it was for some reason a lot brighter. I don't know if it was the auto white balance in that camera or simply because this is a full frame, it can be quite lower, like unedited, no color grade. This is what they look like. And I'm not all too sure why. And they're also both 24 frames. This was in MP4. Obviously, Panasonic's AVC HD was on the Panasonic. I'm pretty sure you can already tell there's a big difference. I'm gonna go home now and do a couple more test shots, and then we can wrap this video up. This is a final comparison clip. This is the Panasonic G6. This is the Canon EOS RP. So when looking at the two different cameras, the Panasonic G6 and the Canon EOS RP, you can tell that there is a distinct difference between these two cameras, and it's most likely due to one, the age of the Panasonic G6, but as well the full frame of the EOS RP, and then the micro four thirds of the Panasonic G6. If you are using the Canon EOS RP, you have a full frame sensor, and then when you are using the Panasonic G6, you have a micro four thirds, which is a 2x crop. So as I was explaining earlier in the video, if you are using a 24mm lens on a Panasonic G6, it'd be around a 48mm full frame equivalent. So the closest I could get in this circumstance was using a 14mm lens on the Panasonic G6, and that was a 28mm equivalent. That would have been on a full frame camera. And then I decided to just go ahead and shoot 24mm focal length on the EOS RP, since that was the lowest this kit lens would go to, and it wasn't too big of a difference. You can see in the footage, they look about the same distance away from everything. So you can see in the last two clips, the Panasonic was really having to focus in a situation where it really shouldn't have to. I believe Panasonic's at least focusing system back then was based off contrast, and if you look in the last clip, there's a lot of contrast going on, and it was really interesting to see it having to hunt for it, as the Canon EOS RP had that exact same shot, looks 5 times better, which is really just interesting to see. And I'm not sure as to why the aperture looks so different in these two, but I'm sure they were both set at 4.0, so I'm not sure if it was just that the EOS RP is a full frame camera. Not all too sure about that. And then just to go over the settings one more time that we used throughout this whole video with these two different cameras. Both cameras were set at a shutter speed of 1/60th, a aperture of 4.0, and then had ISO around 400. The EOS RP I started out at 200 on both cameras, and then I had to bump it up to 4 because the EOS RP was shooting a lot darker in the gym, as you could obviously tell. Even after I bumped both cameras up to ISO 400, it was still being very dark. And again, I think it's because of the full frame. This isn't a very scientific or expert review of these two cameras. It's really just a novice's comparison between these two cameras. What I want to get into now is, who are these cameras really meant for? I would say the Panasonic G6 would have definitely been the camera to buy a year or two ago, but now you can find Canon M50s for the same price that I probably bought my Panasonic G6 when I bought it. It would definitely outperform a Panasonic G6 with a Canon M50 for sure, and you still have about the same form factor between those two cameras, but obviously the Canon M50 has a 1.6 times crop because it's a APS-C sensor and not a full frame like this Canon EOS RP. But I think the Panasonic G6 is really just, if you really need a B cam and you're really shooting cinema stuff and you're only using manual focus, because if you're trying to do any talking head stuff and no one else is behind the camera for you, or if you just really use autofocus more than manual focus and you don't feel comfortable with manual focus yet, I would definitely say steer away from Panasonic, at least for right now. Hopefully they get their stuff together in the near future, because I mean the price point for all of their cameras are very affordable. When you go onto eBay, you can find a GH3 for, let's look at how much that is real quick. So we'll just go to ending soonest. So there's a GH3 that has a couple bids on it for $238, which is an excellent deal. If you're looking for like the best vlog camera for, I would say, around $400, definitely look into the Canon EOS M50. Those are really good. They came out a few years ago. There's a Mark II. I don't believe there's a big difference between the two except for price, so I'd definitely go with the original M50. It is a crop sensor camera, but you can get a lot of use out of it. I think I just really wanted to see the dramatic difference that a full frame sensor would give me compared to a micro four thirds sensor, and I'm absolutely loving it. I didn't know a camera could blow my mind this much, and I was really like stoked the fire within me to create more stuff. If you're in the same boat I was, I wouldn't really stick with Panasonic if you've been really dreading that autofocus. It's quite annoying. It's not fun to use and deal with. The manual focus, I mean, if you're good with manual focus, you're good on pretty much any camera. But again, if you're doing talking head stuff like this, it's not really fun to deal with the autofocus on the Panasonic system. Switching over to Canon and their dual pixel autofocus system, it's absolutely amazing. I can be way out here, or can be way in here. And I'm sorry for all the shaking in the camera. I did not realize how unstable this tripod was on my desk. My desk is also kind of shaky because I decided not to buy the fifth leg for this very long desk, and I'm definitely about to order the fifth one. The last thing I want to talk about in this video is definitely price point. The Canon EOS RP. I found mine for a pretty good price point, around $800, which is absolutely fantastic. It looks in practically brand new condition. And Black Friday sales, you could buy one at Best Buy for $1,000. It came with a kit lens and it came with a ring light, I believe. and then like $25 for Shutterfly. I thought that was a great deal, and I was actually going to do that until I saw this one on eBay. I was like, you know what, heck, saving almost around $200 by buying the used one, and it is obviously in great condition, as you can tell, which I thank God for, because I think it's the most expensive thing I've ever bought on eBay. And now saying that, I'm realizing that's very expensive. I wouldn't say this should be your first camera. Again, I would say go with the Canon M50. I would love to get my hands on one just to compare these two cameras. I don't know if I know anybody with a Canon M50. If you know anybody with a Canon M50, please let me know, because that would be an interesting comparison to do. And then when you look at Panasonic, you can buy one on the used market for $300, depending on what kind of lenses it comes with, what condition it is. And I would say, I believe the body and the kit lens you can find for around $200, $250, and that's an excellent deal for what it is. But realize, if you know you're going to need autofocus, and you know you don't want to have the headache of having it hunt for autofocus like it did in that last clip, I would definitely say steer clear from it. Wait for an M50, or I believe even the Canon M200. I don't know if that's correct, but I would definitely just look into more mirrorless, cheaper Canon options, just because I know their autofocus is amazing. I know Sony also has great autofocus, but I believe that's on like their higher end model. Most of Sony's cameras that have detachable lenses are very pricey. I believe the A6400 is almost $1,000. It might actually be less than that. I might be lying, but before I bought the EOS RP, I was actually looking at the Sony A7S III. I was like, oh, this is the camera I want. I was watching a review about it, and then I looked at the price. I was very tempted to almost spend that $2,800 on that camera. So nice. Under $1,000, if you can find it, the EOS RP is the greatest deal you can get, just because you're getting a full frame camera, you're getting 1080p, 24 frames, you're getting 4K at a crop. And I actually haven't even used the 4K on this camera. I haven't touched it because you lose the dual pixel autofocus. But it's definitely something I want to toy around with, just because I've never used that before. And I just want to, maybe I'll use it for B-roll clips here and there. I don't know. But certainly, I would say, looking to the Canon EOS M50, I would say stay away from the Panasonic cameras unless you're doing more cinema style work. You're filming someone else. You're filming other things, not really yourself. Just because the autofocus is really bad, at least on the G6s, and probably G7s, I would say. I think it may have gotten better, but it's still nowhere near Canon's, and hopefully Panasonic will get their stuff together soon. I would definitely love to try more of the cameras out in the future, but I think that's gonna be all for this video. So I hope you all enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed making this type of video. This is actually my second time doing this talking head, because I couldn't get the audio to line up, and I just really wasn't satisfied with my attitude, I guess. I was kind of, my usual droning on voice. But definitely click the like button, subscribe maybe if you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you want more camera type videos. I'm actually probably going to take this camera out to some low light situations to look at Christmas lights with my dog and girlfriend. So definitely let me know if you want to see a video about that. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed. Don't be a fraction, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.